y'all. I started on the TV trays yesterday. Let me turn it around here. This is the set that someone had given me, and one of our staff members here actually wants them. So I painted the base, which is kind of behind here, and I've got 2 coats of paint on the top of 2 of the pieces, and then I didn't have my Dixie Belle Boss to like block the any stains or bleed through or some stuff on the top. So those 2 over there now have the Boss on them waiting, but the staff member, she wanted sort of a taupe color, and we used the Dixie Belle chart like this. Let me show you. Dixie Belle chart like this, and for her to select the color that she wanted. And she kind of liked burlap, but when we picked up the bottle, she's like, no, that's too tan. She wanted a little more regular taupe. So we ended up trying dried sage, because that ended up being the most taupey looking on here. But after I got it on the piece, she said she thought it was too gray. So someone gave me these, and now I spent $10 on this paint yesterday, and I'm fixing to spend $20 opening this new glaze. And so I'm actually probably going to lose money on this project, because she actually wants me to find a stencil with some grapes on it, so that we can add a little bit of a muscadine wine kind of a color and some green to the top and some decoration. But I want her to be happy. I love her to death. She's been here for a while, and I want her to be happy. I've never used the Dixie Belle Glaze before. I'm sure a glaze is a glaze, and I've made my own glazes back whenever I was making my own chalky style paint. And what I did with that was just take like the Sherwin-Williams sample size paints. Morning, Liz. And the Sherwin-Williams the Sherwin-Williams sample size paints aren't as good as their regular paints. It doesn't have all the stuff in it, but they're good for trying stuff out. And I actually have a glaze that I like, that I redid my grandmother's buffet in. With using that, I just mixed it 50-50 with water in an old water bottle and shook it up, and then poured some in my thing, and that's what I used for a glaze. So this is going to be my first time using like a store-bought glaze, and there's no directions on here, but Dixie Belle has this book, the how-to book, and what it says is: clean with white lighting, which I did. Apply Dixie Belle paint or clear coat for a base and allow to dry, which I've done. I've got 2 coats of this dried sage on here. Apply glaze in small sections using a brush or a cloth. Wipe away excess glaze or add more if necessary. Note, you can apply glaze to a clean surface, a Dixie Belle painted surface, or a clear coated surface. I am scared to death right this minute that Sherry's not going to like this. That it's going to make it too brown. What I did was grab me a whole bunch of my cut up t-shirt rags, and I'm going to brush it on. So I have some brushes here. I'm just going to use this, I better not, that just in case all that blue's not rinsing out. I'm going to use this one. These are all still damp because I brought them from home this morning. I'm going to use this Dixie Belle OS brush. I like these long bristles on this, the way that goes. And just try to do a section at a time. And the thing about what I was going to do, and I have it here, was use the brown wax over it, because y'all have seen me wax before, and you can control that, because if there's too much, you just take your clear wax and you erase it. But since she's wanting to stencil designs and things on here, oh my gosh, it's a fantastic brush, and it holds so much paint. And they're on the Dixie Belle website if you want to check them out, or we have some here. But I love this one. It's well weighted and doesn't give me wrist fatigue. And the little short one is already in there, the mini that I use all the time, and I used it to put the Boss on those this morning. This one, I really, really love it too. When I'm doing big pieces, like the big pieces of furniture, I want a big brush that's going to hold a lot, because I can't stand to dip, get some paint, wipe, get some paint, wipe. I want to get some paint and wipe, get some paint. Save myself some time, because I do think my time is valuable. But I do love this one when I'm doing smaller things, because it's long, thin bristles, and I can go from one end to the other. But this feels excuse me so chalky right now, more chalky than Dixie Belle paint usually. Yeah, you know what I mean, Liz. Than it usually feels, because it has that little bit of acrylic sealer in it to where you don't have to top coat it, but it right now it feels chalky, and I'm scared to death when I put this glaze on here it's going to be too much. But the reason I chose to go ahead and do the glaze instead of doing the wax is I can paint back over that glaze. I can, you know, go right back to this color if, you know, if she doesn't like it, or dry brush some of this color back over it. But I just wanted to go ahead and do one today, so when she comes to work tomorrow, she can look at it and see if she likes it, because she lives in a small home, and she just has a dining table, you know, for a small, very small dining table for 4 people. But when they have holiday stuff like Christmas and Easter and all, Thanksgiving and all that, everybody comes to her house, and they're trying to cram 7 people around a 4-person table, and it just doesn't work out. So she's like, oh, sorry about that. There was a phone call. I forgot to do the do not disturb. But she was like, I would love to have the TV trays. Then everybody could have a place to sit, but she doesn't have to buy a huge table that she doesn't need now because she's an empty nester. So I'm like, that's a great idea. Now I want to sit. Okay, so we're going to try it. And like I said, the thing that made me decide on going ahead and going with the glaze is, for one, trusting Dixie Belle that it's going to go on there okay, and the fact that if it was a wax, I wouldn't be able to paint over it again if she doesn't care for it. And I'm going to grab me 2 or 3 of these rags, and you know, this way, if it makes it too brown now, because where it's too gray right now, if this makes it too brown, we'll go back and paint it with the gray again. But I'm hoping, tilt it over, try to get that edge real good while I'm down there. And I just don't know how much of an area to do, how much of it to let set in. It's way thinner. See there? It is like, you know, watered down paint. But I know it has to be more than watered down paint, because they wouldn't have, you know, doubled the price if it was just watered down paint. So that's about a quarter or so of it. So I'm going to stop, put that aside, and go ahead and take a rag and start wiping it off. Because it's barely any difference. What she said she wanted, well, she said her walls are like a taupe color, but what she wanted was what it looks like when you put just a little bit of cream in your coffee, or a lot of cream in your coffee. So that's definitely, can you tell the difference? That's definitely more cream in your coffee than this one was. So I think this is going to be the right answer. Like I said, you know, part of the reason I chose it is if it's not the right answer, I can go back over it with the other paint and we can look for another plan. I'm going to go over where I just went a little bit more to keep it moist so I don't end up with too bad of lines in there. Yeah, that's definitely easily. I'm trying to just stay in the same direction as my brush strokes, so it doesn't get too crazy looking there. Might have been crazier looking than I anticipated. But I think sometimes having a little bit of, I don't know what word to use, a little bit of difference in your brush strokes and the way that it looks is a plus to, you know, not exactly like a marbling, but having a little bit of a different, maybe texture is the word I'm looking for, to the surface gives it a little bit more character and definition than just the flat paint. But what I'll do is go ahead and when I'm done with this, I'm gonna put the top coat on that last black chair that I have up here. Then I'll put the base coat, or the 2 coats of this dried sage on that one. And then hopefully she'll see this one tomorrow and love it. And I can do the rest of them with this glaze. And have a definitely pretty color and be able to mimic this in the future and know when somebody wants it to be a little more, you know. Taupe is such a funny color to just, you know, to describe, because to some people it's more gray, to other people it's more tan. Our house is like a taupe color, but I think it was desert sand is what like Lowe's called it desert sand, but the manufacturer called it taupe or something like that, to know what color it is. It's not really gray, as we had gray on our man cave, which was our old a garage that we built to live in while we were building our house, and it was gray. It's now, you know, matching siding, but and you thought they were very similar until you saw them side by side. But anyhow, now I can't say I've never used the Dixie Belle Glaze, because I have. And I'm very happy with it. I like the little bits of, and you go all the way around the edges and make sure I didn't miss a spot. That would be bad later. I hope it's good. I like the little bit of, I don't know, striations, the little bit of difference, almost like waves that you can see through there of that, where the difference, can you see that? The base coat was, first I used the Dixie Belle Boss, and I'll post a picture of those later, but you can maybe still see them, that one over there. See how it's darker and lighter? These were used for several years by somebody, and they had a lot of like water damage and, you know, use and everything to the top of them. So I'm not doing this to the legs, but to the tops of each of them I used the Dixie Belle Boss, which blocks out stains and odors, because I didn't want any bleed through. And then I used Dixie Belle Dried Sage, which is to me sort of a taupe color, almost, but somewhere between clay and taupe. And then now for the glaze that I just put over it, let me put the lid on that, I used Van Dyke Brown. So I think that's going to be more the color she wants. Let me put the other one down here beside it, because I've got 2 coats of the dried sage on this one, and it's just a subtle difference. Can you tell that at all? It's pretty subtle, but I think that's going to go a little more to the direction she was wanting, but I'm not going to do anything else until she sees it. But it definitely is, I think you can see a little more that way. It definitely is toned down and more into the brown taupe than the gray taupe at this point. So it's not thank you, Liz, it's not a whole lot of difference, but it's, you know, enough, I think, that may be what she wants. And then we can, now it's got a very smooth surface instead of chalky, but now we can, I'm going to go dig through. I hope I have one already. I think I have, in the stuff that belonged to my mama, I have a stencil that has some grapes and leaves and stuff on it. So I'm going to go dig those out and have those in here. And she has, what do you call it, like a wallpaper border that has those kind of designs on it. And she's just kind of wanting to tie this into those. So hopefully that'll work out. And I appreciate you joining me. And I'll talk to you later. Bye.